All right, here are 5 apps that you absolutely need to start using. Now, this video is for entrepreneurs, freelancers, or really anybody that wants to be more productive. In this video, I'm going to talk about the top 5 apps that are absolute game changers when it comes to being productive, staying organized, and getting things done. So let's chat about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick Russell and this is Let's Chat Tech with Nick. Now this week, I want to talk more specifically about apps. And I want to talk about the top 5 apps I use every single day that help me be a lot more productive. Now, we're going to talk about productivity apps as well as apps like Spotify and Audible and how those can actually help you be a lot more productive. So I want to dive straight into this video and I want to talk about my absolute favorite app that I've been using for years, and that's Todoist. So first app, let's dive into Todoist. Now, Todoist is hands down one of my favorite apps. This is an app that I've been using since about 2017, 2018-ish, and it's been an absolute game changer in the way I work. Now, with Todoist, it is at its core a to-do list app. So you can set up different lists like your shopping list, your task list for the day. You can even break it down into different projects. Now, the way I do that is I break things down into projects using the para method. So using projects, areas, resources, and archive. And I set that up where I have my clients in the areas because they're ongoing. If there is a certain project that I'm working on, like say creating a Notion template that has to go out or creating a website for a client or whatever the case may be, I'll put that into projects and then I can move that down into a client folder into the archive later on. The cool thing about Todoist and the reason why I love it so much is I do all of my time blocking in Todoist. Now, you can actually go into your settings and have a two-way sync with your Google Calendar. With that set up, you can set up a meeting in Todoist so you have that and can be reminded of that meeting, but also using Todoist and its calendar view, you can see everything all in one spot, but it also shows up in your Google Calendar. So if you want to have that view and it's something you're used to, you have that there. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So with your Google Calendar, or my apologies, with your Todoist, all you have to do is, let's say, create a task here. So we're going to add a task. So let's say it's next Thursday at 12:30 p.m. and it's a 2.5 hour meeting. So we're going to have meeting with Nick. Now the due date, since I'm filming this on a Thursday, I'll have to put next Thursday into the due date field. But if it's say tomorrow or Wednesday, if it's after that date, it'll recognize that. So if I type in Thursday, it puts up today's date where I'm filming this, November 21st. So in order to be next week, I'm going to type in next Thursday, which will come up the 28th at say 12:30 p.m. for, let's say, 2 hours and 30 minutes. Now you'll automatically see, just typing 12:30 for 2 hours, 30 minutes, it automatically pops that up, 12:30 to 3 on Thursday, November 28th. And it puts it right in there. Now you can add a priority. I use this like the para method as well. So priority 1 is projects, all the way down to priority 4, which is archive. And then labels. With the pro version, you can have as many labels as you want. And by doing this, it helps you recall everything quickly and keeps everything sorted by the different task or label that you're using. For example, if it's something for fitness, if it's a morning routine or a morning work routine, if you're planning tasks by morning, midday, evening, your chores, evening routines, And I do even have TV shows in there because I keep all of my TV shows listed in here so I know what shows are coming up. And for example, if there's a hockey game on, I know I have to watch that show the next day on using CTV or the Global app. But you can set your label, a reminder if you need a reminder, set the location. So for example, if this meeting was at a coffee shop or a brewery or somebody's office, you could actually put in the location so you know exactly where that's at. And then you can go by your projects. So whatever project you're going to set it to, I'll set it to, say, the business project and add task. Now, when you add that task, it'll automatically put that into your Google Calendar and have that time blocked out between the 12:30 and 3 p.m. So that's basically a small version of what Todoist is, and there's so much more it can do, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. So let's talk about the next app, Notion. Now, Notion for me is basically the hub that runs my entire business. Now, with Notion, it's basically kind of like a note-taking app slash a database app where you can customize it to do literally anything that you want, anything that you can dream up that kind of runs off of a database type of idea. You can do that in Notion. So for Notion, I do so many things. So when you first get into my Notion, I have my homepage. Quick little snippet of the weather, all of my content calendars and what projects and content that's going out. And then I have quick capture or quick capture buttons for different tasks like adding a budget, adding a note, adding my clock in, clock out. So I actually have a database in client where I can clock in and out depending on what I'm doing for that day. Now, all of my planning and goal tracking is in here. And now this is a template that I actually have in the description below. So if you're looking to not only set goals for 2025, do quarterly reviews and do a yearly review as well, but quarterly reviews where you can keep track of those goals, as well as weekly reviews and daily planning. So you're always on top of everything that needs to get done. This is the template that I use. So from my daily planner, my weekly review and planning, to the yearly and quarterly review and goal setting pages, as well as with my quick ads. And I can show you, I actually missed planning last Wednesday, last Friday, last Saturday, and on the 2nd, but for the most part, I plan every single day. I also have my second brain. This is where, and you've seen it in countless videos, where I have a quick capture button on my cell phone where I can capture ideas on the fly. Not only that is I have a Notion button up here so I can capture any website instantly. That'll go into my notes. And you'll see the notes that get quick captured here. And then these are things that I can put away for later on. And then the client hub is where I have all of my content stuff, all of my client stuff, my CRM, my standard operating procedures are in here. And like I said, I track all of my hours so I can easily look up how much time I spent on my work, client's work, whatever the case may be. And then, like I said, creating content. I have stuff for my email newsletters, YouTube, TikTok, and even just normal content planning with a Pomodoro timer so I can work those 25 minutes and so on. But with Notion, you could create anything you could possibly imagine, from shopping lists to movie database tracking to even just running your business with CRMs, content calendars, and so much more. That's how cool Notion is. Trust me, it is a must-have. So we kind of teased it a little bit, but let's talk about Google Calendar. Now, Google Calendar is very straightforward. It is an app. Most people, if you have an Android, you have that on your phone. But with Google Calendar, and you can use any calendar app that you want. Even if you have a Samsung, you can use a Samsung calendar. I use Google Calendar because it ties in nicely with Notion Calendar on my desktop. And it syncs with Todoist, like I said, for two-way syncs. But with Google Calendar, that's where I have all of my meetings laid out, all of my time blocks laid out. So I never miss a meeting, a call, or anything like that. And the bonus to that is you could add multiple different calendars where you could actually color code different things so you can see what's happening. So if your time blocks are, say, gray, meetings in red, I have the Montreal Canadiens and the Montreal Victoires, the PWHL hockey team. I have all the games in there, and they are an off-red kind of color that separates from the meetings. If I have a family time, I use green. But with Google Calendar, you can have all that separated so you can actually see what your week looks like. Now, when you're using Google Calendar, a tip, make sure you leave some time for yourself. So if you're time blocking out your day, make sure you have time for breaks, for lunch. And I've talked about that in videos previous. You can check that out right there. But make sure you leave time for yourself. But Google Calendar, pretty straightforward and an awesome must-have app to use. Now, not so much a productivity app, but let's talk about Spotify. Now, this is something that I've talked about before, but with Spotify, that for me is something that is a distraction that also helps me be a lot more productive. Now, and I've mentioned it in previous videos before, but having music in the background while you work can actually make you more productive. Because if you're working with no sound at all, you're easily distracted. So if there's a noise around the house, if you're working from home, from the office, you may hear your phone vibrate or ring. That could distract you. But if you get a set of headphones and have music on the background, it'll keep you a lot more focused. Now, there is a difference between listening to music and instrumental music. So that's why, and I'll put it in the description below, I made up playlists that are all instrumental. I have Avengers and X-Men and Star Wars, Star Trek. I have a whole handful of different playlists that are all instrumental. And having just that motivational orchestra type music really helps you work a lot better and keeps you a lot more focused. So using Spotify with the Pomodoro technique, for example, that'll help you stay a lot more focused and get a lot more done. So that is something you should definitely try. I highly recommend it. Now, the last app I want to talk about is kind of along the same lines as Spotify. So let's chat about Audible. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Audible and I use it every single day. But as awesome as Audible is, nothing beats having an actual physical book in your hands to read. Now, that said, there are a lot of times where you just don't have time to read. So that's where Audible comes in. For example, Audible is something I use in the mornings. And when I'm out on my walk, that's when I listen to the majority of my books. So if I need to get through feel-good productivity, but I just don't have time, whether it's creating content here, working on client work, whatever the case may be, the mornings is my time. No distractions. The world isn't awake yet. So I put my earbuds in, I put on Audible, and I'll listen to a book like Feel Good Productivity. And while I'm out for about an hour to an hour and a half of walking, I can have a book done within 2-3 days, depending on the size of the book. Now, what does that have to do with productivity? Unless you're listening to books like Feel Good Productivity. Most of the books I listen to are productivity books, marketing books. So it's that continuing education for me. So whether it be Audible or even just Spotify with different podcasts, but listening to an audiobook, it's that continuing education. So if if you're listening to a book like Feel Good Productivity, which I'll put in the link in the description, this is a must-have book. It is not a do this, and this to be more productive. This is all about the science behind actually making productivity be a lot more fun. So when you're using Audible, it helps you retain a lot more information a lot faster. And even if you want to read a book a lot faster, if I'm reading the book, I take a little bit more time while I'm reading the book. So having Audible in as I'm actually reading the book, it'll help me get through a book a lot faster. And you're retaining the information a lot easier because you're reading it and listening to it at the same time. So Audible, another great app that can help you be a lot more productive. So that's it. Those are my 5 favorite apps. 5 apps I use every single day, and all of them in their own way help me be a lot more productive and help me get a lot more done and stay organized. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a few links in the description below. I'm going to put in a link to help you with Todoist. Now, I want you to get the best experience possible. Now, even though Todoist is an extremely inexpensive app, especially for what you get, but I want to make sure there's no second guessing getting Todoist Pro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the description where you can get Todoist Pro for the next 2 months, absolutely free. As well as I'm going to put a link where you can try the Teams feature. So if you have a large team, this is the perfect tool for you. But regardless if you have Teams or not, Todoist Pro is absolutely game-changing. Having things like the calendar view, better reminders, more labels and filters. Todoist Pro, believe me, for the next 2 months, give it a shot. I'm also going to put a link in the description for all of the playlists that I use on a regular basis. Now, you don't have to do this, but these are playlists that I've made from all the different Avengers movies into one playlist. Star Wars, Batman, X-Men, all the playlists that I use. I do have one playlist that has lyrics, and that's the Suits playlist. But for the most part, all these playlists are all instrumental, and believe me, are a game changer in helping you be a lot more productive. Lastly, what I'll do is I will put a link to my Amazon storefront, and you can get Feel Good Productivity. Now, this is probably one of the best books I've read in the last, say, 3 or 4 months, as well as Building a Second Brain and the Para Method. Those will be a link there as well. But I'll put a link to my Amazon storefront where you can get that book straight from Amazon. Now, I don't get, it doesn't cost you anything extra for the book, but I do get a small commission because it's my Amazon affiliate account. So I'll put that in the description. And that's all I have for you. So we talked about Todoist, Notion, Google Calendar, Spotify, and Audible. All amazing apps to help you be a lot more productive. And with all of that, I'll see you on the next video.